Share screen. Continue. Advanced. Portion screen. Let's see how this works. Yeah. You can see my slide, right? Let's see. Frame it a little better. Okay, so the topic that I chose for this evening is a very interesting topic. I find it fairly interesting. The notion of emotions and sentiments, what they mean in the scope of spiritual growth and Krishna consciousness. So I found quite a bit of information among Srila Prabhupada's purports and so on. So we can discuss some of that and hopefully think more deeply about this very interesting topic. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse number 3. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Lokesmin Vividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. And if my audio isn't clear, please feel free to jump in. Just let me know. The purport, Prabhupada says, in the second chapter, verse 39, the Lord explained two kinds of procedures, namely Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga, or Buddhi Yoga. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga, or the analytical study of the nature of spirit and matter, is the subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. The other class of men work in Krishna consciousness. The Lord has explained that by working by the principles of Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness, one can be relieved from the bonds of action. And furthermore, there is no flaw in the process. The same principle is more clearly explained in the 61st verse, that this Buddhi Yoga is to depend entirely on the Supreme, or more specifically on Krishna. And in this way, all the senses can be brought under control very easily. Therefore, both the yogas are interdependent as religion and philosophy. Religion without philosophy is sentiment. This is the kind of point I wanted to hone in on, the sentiment part. So religion without philosophy is sentiment, or sometimes fanaticism. So remember that sentiment and fanaticism, they're very charged emotionally. While philosophy without religion is mental speculation. The ultimate goal is Krishna, because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness. This is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. The whole process is to understand the real position of the self in relation to the super self. The indirect process is philosophical speculation, by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness. And the other process is directly connecting everything with Krishna in Krishna consciousness. Of these two, obviously, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by a philosophical process. Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process, and by the direct method of devotional service, it is simultaneously easy and sublime. So the purport ends here. Om Jnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namah. So, this word sentiment, Srila Prabhupada uses it in this purport. And we also use it in our conversations a lot. But Srila Prabhupada says that religion without philosophy is sentiment, or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. So generally we think in terms of sentiments, feelings, emotions. What does this word sentiment mean to you? Maybe we can open it up if you can unmute yourself. What do you, anybody want to kind of chime in on what they feel? Just the general usage of the term. What does it convey? What does it conjure?
Reacting, like without just going through the heart and reacting.
Reacting through the heart. Sure, that's one of the sentiments, like a feeling, emotion. You're reacting just through the heart. When you say just through the heart, you mean you're not processing it with logic,
Yeah.
something. Just reacting without thinking too much about it. What you feel about it, definitely. So feelings, emotions, sentiments, these are actually very powerful, and they drive practically everything we do, everything we believe in, everything we live for. We work hard, we spend time with our loved ones, we celebrate in joyful moments, we grieve tragedies. Here we see, so many emotions and feelings. We work hard and we put our heart into some things. We're attached to it. Emotions are integral to our very existence. They drive us, actually. If just some sentimental connection, and we'll move mountains just to feel that again, or out of sentiment for somebody else, we'll do something. So generally, these feelings, these emotions, they're associated with our memories of past experiences. If you look at our old photographs and different places we went and different interactions we had with our brothers and sisters and our parents, our friends, so many things. They're also associated with the different feelings that we are currently going through. So there's past, present. Sometimes, work is very, very hard. We're trying to study, or we're trying to get through job, sometimes stressful day, or maybe something with our current relationships. And the feelings and emotions, they're also very strongly bonded to our future anticipations, things that we desire, we plan for, we meditate on, we kind of daydream about. Um, you know, like you can see over here, this is like, our day of wedding, for example, right? It's such an emotionally charged, such an important day in our lives, something we look forward to, we plan for so long, we invest so much money in it. And here you can see in this picture, like everyone's so happy, like this. The girl is obviously very happy, and I don't know, maybe her father is also, I guess, happy. The guy, I'm not so sure if he's very happy. But anyway, it's the emotionally charged environment, right? Experience. So I don't know if he's just closing his eyes because someone's hitting him in the eyes with flowers, or he's regretting his decision. Anyway, whatever it may be, our emotions, they drive us. Our expectations, our worries, and fears. And we all have that one friend who gets emotional in every small matter, right? It doesn't take much to move that person. Sometimes maybe we're that person. Sometimes someone will tell us, "Oh, you are too emotional," or I would say in India, "You're too senti." Senti is just short for sentimental, which means our emotions, they make us do things that are detrimental to ourselves. When you say you're too emotional, it means you will do something that's not good for you. And then what do we respond? We say, "You are the stone-hearted, soulless robot. How can you not have feelings? You have no feelings. After all, I am human." So we defend our emotionality. It's a very important part of who we actually are. You know, and our relationships, very important relationships, they can be made or broken based on how someone makes us feel. Often we may not remember what someone did to us or what someone said to us. Uh, and we may forget their name, but we rarely forget how someone made us feel. That goes very deep in our memory. Feelings are important to our very existence, our consciousness, our long-term memories. And when we see that face of that person, we forget their name, but we know how that person made us feel. Either they made us feel very happy, made us feel very angry. So this word sentimental. Sentimental describes a person who relies on emotions more than reason. So like Prabhu, you were saying that we don't process it through the rationality of the heart. I mean, of the brain. It's just through the heart. So it derived from the Latin verb sentire, or to feel. And sentimental always implies that the emotions are involved are a little too much. If you do something for sentimental reasons, you're only doing it because of an emotional attachment, not because it makes sense. So that's called sentiment. And this famous poet known as Oscar Wilde, he writes that a sentimentalist is one who desires to have the luxury of an emotion without paying for it. So you see, he's distinguishing sentiment and emotion. If you want the emotion, but you don't want to pay for it with the proper processing it with rationality or applying it properly, that you have a luxury without paying for it. So he doesn't look at it with a lot of respect. It's disdainful. And another novelist, James Joyce, he says sentimentalism is unearned emotion. See, so it's an emotion that is not properly placed. You're just kind of jumping into the flow of the emotion to experience the emotion without actually earning it. It's an interesting moral concept, actually. The idea that our emotions need to be earned. It's a very interesting angle to look at it. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to share what different philosophers have spoken on this word. And coming to Srila Prabhupada's purports, Prabhupada writes some very clear statements on this concept of emotions and sentiments. Now that we understand there's a difference between sentiment and emotion, and sentiment is just something taken cheaply, Prabhupada says, the Vaishnavas are by far the greatest philosophers in the world. And the greatest among them was Srila Jiva Goswami. Therefore, one must know very well that Vaishnavas are not sentimentalists or cheap devotees like the Sahajiyas. All the Vaishnava Acharyas were vastly learned scholars who understood Vedanta philosophy fully. Does anybody know who are these Sahajiyas? Because Prabhupada mentions them, the cheap devotees like Sahajiyas. If you've heard of this term, Sahajiya, Sahaj means something that comes very easily or very cheaply in this particular context. And some people who wish to be seen and recognized as very advanced devotees, they will do things to kind of exhibit certain symptoms. I'll just read something here. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that persons who are actually very poor because they possess not even a drop of love of Godhead, or there's a lot of fireworks going on outside. I'm just going to this is very interesting. Even a drop of love of Godhead or pure devotional service falsely advertise themselves as great devotees, although they cannot at any time relish the transcendental bliss of devotional service. A class of so-called devotees known as Prakrita Sahajiyas sometimes display devotional symptoms to exhibit their good fortune. They're pretending, however, because these devotional features are only external. The Prakrita Sahajiyas exhibit these symptoms to advertise their so-called advancement in love of Krishna. But instead of praising the Prakrita Sahajiyas for the symptoms of transcendental ecstasy, pure devotees do not like to associate with them. It is not advisable to equate the Prakrita Sahajiyas with pure devotees. When one is actually advanced in ecstatic love of Krishna, he does not try to advertise himself. Instead, he endeavors more and more to render service to the Lord. Okay, so this is about these exhibitions of sentiments and even emotions. Right? So then the question may be asked, is there a place for emotions in Krishna consciousness? If the Sahajiyas are looked down upon and meant to be avoided, are we also then meant to always suppress our emotions and feelings and things like that? Let us go to the definition of sadhana bhakti. This is the sadhana bhakti definition given by Rup Goswami in Nectar of Devotion. He says, Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana bhidha nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. When transcendental devotional service, by which love for Krishna is attained, is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or the regular discharge of devotional service. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. See, so it's interesting how it says bhava. Bhava refers to the affection, attachment for Krishna. Bhava means loving feelings in the heart. See? So that activity by which bhava or loving feelings in the heart are established, that is called sadhana bhakti. The aim is bhava. So it really is all about feelings. It really is all about awakening the genuine emotions that are spiritual in nature. And these bhava emotions have symptoms, they manifest symptoms. The bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing in the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. So Lord Chaitanya, he manifested all these symptoms. But most of the time he kept them suppressed. So one may then ask, if someone is crying in front of Krishna, does that mean that they have reached the level of bhava bhakti? I mean, just the fact that someone's standing in front of the deity and having tears in the face, does it mean that bhava bhakti is manifest? How do you know what is prakrita sahajiya and genuine feeling? Say this kid. Sometimes someone is really genuine feeling pain. Okay, this person is feeling pain in the heart. And these are real tears. Oh Krishna, I lost again in Super Mario Brothers against my brother. And the kid is really feeling upset about it. But is this something worth crying about? See, that's the question. What am I crying for? Why am I crying? Just because I'm crying in front of Krishna, is it a genuine feeling? Yes, I feel the pain, but is this something worth presenting or making an emotional plea to the Lord for, right? Is it good to make an emotional plea to Krishna for, say, getting more M&Ms than my brother, or getting invited to my college friend's movie party? Is it worth asking Krishna, please, my Lord, make me more sincere in Krishna consciousness? Is it worth asking Krishna for multiple Ferrari cars? Is it worth asking Krishna to get free from troublesome disease? Making more money at my job? Getting more respect and honor among my friends? My own health? My grandfather's health? How about crying to Krishna that, my Lord, please give me proper understanding to serve you better? These are all varieties of different motivations, and they could all be genuine feelings that move our heart. But some of these are much more in line with genuine Krishna consciousness than others, right? If you want to cry, my Lord, please make me understand you better. I want to know how to serve you. That's a very nice way to, something nice to cry for. My own health may be, may not be. What do I want to do with my health? That I can serve you more, that I can do better service for you, my Lord. Or even this, my Lord, teach me to become more sincere. I'm lacking in that department. So, how do we know what makes spiritual emotions genuine? The emotions, the crying that we do in front of the Lord, whether we do it in front of the deity, we're doing it private, or we just, we're falling asleep and we cry to the Lord, my Lord, this day was just wonderful, or it was just awful, but we cry. So what makes spiritual emotions genuine? It is the purity of motivation. What was my motive for crying? Right. But then the question is begged, what makes motivation pure? How do I know that my motive was pure? That comes about with the cultivation of knowledge, and in particular, spiritual knowledge. So what is this spiritual knowledge? The spiritual knowledge consists of understanding our proper identity, who we are. We are eternal spirit souls. Yes, we know theoretically. How do we realize that? How do we implement that in our lives? So that is a very major part of spiritual knowledge. The next one is our relationship with Krishna. We know theoretically also that we're eternal servants of Krishna, but how much am I acting on that understanding? Do I understand the world around me? What is the purpose of this world? What is the purpose of my position in this world, my existence in this world? And also our relationship with others. Who are all these other people, other living entities around me? Who are they? What is my relationship with them? These four or five things, like what to do and how to act, these consist of the core of spiritual knowledge, or siddhanta. If we have a very solid and thorough understanding of siddhanta, siddhanta means a conclusive knowledge of spiritual teachings, given by Lord Krishna, given and taught to us by Mahaprabhu, by Srila Prabhupada, then we will understand how to apply the principles of purity of motive. We will know that, is my feeling, the flow of emotion, genuine? It could be real, but is it motivated purely? See. Therefore, Mahaprabhu himself, who would exhibit a lot of these symptoms of emotions, he also emphasized this very important point. He says, Siddhanta boliya chitte na karo alash. Iha hoite Krishne lage shuddrida manosh. This is a very important point in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Don't think that just allowing your emotions to flow and chant, and just going and saying Hari Bol and just trying to show off that you're a devotee is enough. You have to invest your energy in understanding Siddhanta. Siddhanta means this conclusive knowledge. A sincere student should not neglect discussions of Siddhanta. It says, na karo alash. Alash means laziness. Don't be lazy about this thing. Don't neglect it. For such discussions strengthen the mind. Shuddrida manash. They make our mind stronger. See, remember, the mind is also a repository of emotions. It's like a child. It's thinking, this is great, this is not great. So emotions flow through the heart and through the mind that's in the heart. See. So we have to strengthen the mind and orient the mind correctly with the proper intelligence. And that can only happen when we've invested in understanding Siddhanta. Thus, one's mind becomes attached to Sri Krishna. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he elaborates further. He says, false devotees, remember, these are devotees, by the way, who come from, they show off as they're devotees, but they're called false devotees. Lacking the conclusion of transcendental knowledge, think that artificially shedding tears will deliver them. Similarly, other false devotees think that studying books of the previous acharyas is unadvisable, like studying dry empiric philosophies. Some devotees say, why are you reading so much? Just forget it. Just main thing is a feeling, for Krishna. That's what matters. Why are you reading so much? You'll hear this. I have heard this many times, even among circles of devotees. Especially people who find reading very burdensome. They'll try to show that actually they're on a higher platform. And Prabhupada spent all night writing these books. It's for us to read. And then he's writing these purports that don't be lazy about reading. False devotees who have very little knowledge of such conclusions fail to achieve pure devotion. Why? For want of zeal in accepting the favorable directions for devotional service given by self-realized devotees. Such false devotees are like impersonalists who also consider devotional service no better than ordinary fruitive actions. See, that's the problem. If our knowledge is not solid, our motivation cannot be fully pure. And therefore, it looks like either we're doing something ritualistic or we're doing it for fruitive gains. And then a lot of the times, many false devotees will assess their spiritual advancement based on how merciful the Lord has been in terms of their own fruitive material gains. Oh, that person, he made so much money, so Krishna is pleased with him. And that person, his business failed, which means Krishna is not pleased with him. He's not making advancement in his Krishna consciousness. That sort of thing, superficial fruitive actions or ritualistic things. And we see this all the time. It's all because we're not investing enough time in Siddhanta. If you're lazy about cultivating Siddhanta to the level that Srila Prabhupada expects us to do, we will develop ideas or understandings that are not in line. And so when we have feelings and emotions, we may think that these are pure feelings that will accelerate my Krishna consciousness. But they may not be. So now we may think, oh God, suppose I don't have full knowledge. I haven't studied all the books. Prabhupada's written like 1 million books. I haven't read all of them. I don't have full knowledge. Does that mean all my emotions are simply sentiments? Does that mean all my emotions are misleading? All my feelings are a waste of time? Not necessarily. One thing is self-evident, and a lot of devotees, they came for the first time, say, to the temple. They don't know much about Krishna consciousness. But they see the beautiful form of the Lord. Their heart jumps. And they feel an attraction to him. Because Krishna is all attractive. So beautiful. His names are being sung. And the whole atmosphere is so beautiful. And we feel the immediate attraction. And we can feel sometimes, we can see that maybe our original deep-rooted love also jumps out that first day. And the soul is happy to finally see Krishna's beautiful face. But due to our material conditioning, our true knowledge is covered. So we need purification and cultivation of proper knowledge to realign our intelligence in the proper direction. But when we have an appreciation of Krishna's attractiveness, that is a good feeling. Devoid of other ideas that may come in, but just that initial attraction that we feel, that shouldn't be denied. Another point to remember is that Krishna is bhavagrahi. Does anybody know where this comes from, bhavagrahi? This is from the book Chaitanya Bhagavata in Adikanda. There's a verse that says, Murkho vadati Vishnaya, Dhiro vadati Vishnave, Ubayostu samam punyam, bhavagrahi janardana. Which means the fool, he says Vishnaya. The proper way is to say Vishnave, grammatically. So when you say, I'm bowing down, Namo Vishnaya, actually it's supposed to be Namo Vishnave. But because Krishna is bhavagrahi, he takes the feeling behind that offering. He will accept even the incorrectly spelled or incorrectly formed sentence. He'll accept it if there is a feeling of appreciation and affection for Krishna. So this is available to us right from the beginning as well. So the relationship of the pure devotees with the Lord develops because of devotional service to the Lord on the authentic basis of Vedic authority. So this is Prabhupada's purport in Bhagavatam. He says, such pure devotees are not mundane sentimentalists, but are factually realists, because their activities are supported by the Vedic authorities who have given oral reception to the facts mentioned in the Vedic literatures. Spontaneous love of God is the basis of an intimate relationship with the Lord. This is the highest stage of relationship with the Lord. This highest stage can be attained simply by hearing about Him from authentic sources like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, recited by pure, unalloyed devotees of the Lord. So this is important. We hear and we read and we learn it from those who are advanced devotees. This way it'll realign our intelligence so that we can offer our full feelings to the Lord. And what is the most important practice in Krishna consciousness? It is this notion, this practice of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. This is a purport in a verse in the teachings of Queen Kunti, if you recall, the prayers of Queen Kunti, where she prays, Janma Ishwareshu Tashi Bhi Edaman Madapaman Naiva Hardi Vidatam Ve Tvama Kinchana Gocharam. That, people who run after wealth and beauty and education and so on, they can't turn to you with feeling. So now we know the Lord's name is very powerful. It says right here, there's not the least exaggeration in the statement that just saying the name once erases all our sins, more than we can even commit. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency. Then Srila Prabhupada gives a caveat. There's always a caveat when something is this powerful. What is the caveat? Prabhupada says, but there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. If you recall, I believe it was in this group where I talked about the 4 gates of improving japa. The first gate is where we sit properly, chant the name clearly in a clean place early in the morning. Second gate is, understanding with the mind and intellect the nature of the holy name, the meaning of the mantra. And the third one is offering our feelings to the Lord, genuine feelings to the Lord. When we offer all 3 gates and open them, then the 4th gate, which is the mercy of the Lord, is opened by the Lord Himself. Then we can connect to the Lord. So this is an important part. When we chant Hare Krishna, we do a japa in the morning or evening, whenever, we have to have an understanding of a relationship with Krishna, and with that understanding, we should express feelingly, prayerfully. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality. This is a teaching of Queen Kunti. Quality means feeling. You see how Prabhupada equates those 2 things? He said quality japa means we have to chant with feeling. That feeling, that emotion that flows, it has to be in line with proper understanding, with Siddhanta. So we can't be lazy about that. Otherwise, we could end up slipping into Prakriti Sahajiya, not even knowing it. We have to understand the Siddhanta. So then, what is the proper way to cultivate this pure love, this pure feelings? So, see, love is a very lofty goal. You can't just immediately jump to love of Godhead if we are conditioned materially. However, there are certain feelings that are more easily reachable. For example, appreciation. We can appreciate the Lord, we can appreciate the Lord's power, we can appreciate the Lord's mercy especially. We can appreciate the Lord's devotees. We can enter into a space of glorification of the Lord. My Lord, how wonderful you are, and just actually glorify you, His greatness. That kind of goes hand in hand with appreciation. And another thing goes hand in hand is gratitude. Thank you, my Lord, that I am so unfortunate and fallen, but somehow you've given me this opportunity. You've connected me with the devotees. You've connected me with Srila Prabhupada. You've taught me so many things. So we can express our gratitude. And when our gratitude overflows, we can celebrate. We can celebrate our good fortune. We can celebrate the Lord's various festival days, appearance days, his leelas. So that's why we have these utsava, these festivals. So the celebration is important. And and then let's see. Another important feeling is remorse. Remorse is a very powerful and effective emotion for strengthening and purifying our practice. In fact, we see this in the bhajans. Hari Hari Bifale Janama Gavayu. Right? I got this human form of life. Right? And I didn't worship Radha Krishna. Janiya Shuniya Bishakayu. Because I wasted my life. I knowingly drank poison. I knew I was supposed to have been worshipping Radha Krishna, but I didn't. Wasted my time. That's a genuine remorse. We can definitely express that. That's easily reachable feeling, and is a very powerful, effective, and purifying way of chanting japa. While we're chanting, and even while we're not chanting, we can sing. That's why our previous acharyas, when you follow in their footsteps, Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada himself, these are pure examples of devotional, pure prayers calling out with great feeling and pure emotions. These songs of Vaishnava Acharyas. When we learn them, when we sing them in the association of progressive devotees, we can also become purified. Because then we'll understand what is it worth moving our hearts for. What is worth feeling moved about? What is worth crying over? We should at least know what is worth crying over and invest our emotions there. Therefore, the songs of Vaishnava Acharyas are written in such simple languages. Simple language that even a basic person who doesn't have much inclination to learn philosophy can get the philosophy encapsulated in these bhajans. So if you have a culture of learning philosophy, reading, studying, and also regularly singing and studying these hymns, these mantras, these songs, that gives our emotions a proper outlet and proper direction. See? Then we can allow our hearts to relish the flow of loving feelings and pure bliss. And we'll feel secure knowing that these emotions, because they are within the realm of these particular motivations of remorse or anticipation of seeing the Lord, these motivations are pure. And therefore, they are purifying for us. See? When Lord Chaitanya met Sri Ramananda Rai, the Lord developed all these symptoms. This is in the purport. Tears and voice choking up. But because of the presence of some non-devotee brahmanas, the Lord suppressed these symptoms. So sometimes they're not visible even in the body of the first-class devotee for certain circumstantial reasons. So then how do you know you've actually made progress? If someone isn't showing the tears all the time, how can you judge that person has made significant progress? There are certain things that cannot be imitated, but they're self-evident. The steadiness of bhav, the steady level of bhav. These are the symptoms that cannot be, copied. They cannot be duplicated. They cannot be imitated. What is that? Cessation of material desire, like shanti. Spending every moment in the loving service of the Lord. Avyartha kalatvam, not wasting 1 second. You can't imitate that. Either you're doing it or not. Eagerness for glorifying the Lord's holy name and the Lord himself constantly. Namagane sada ruchi. All the time, just eager and happy, looking for opportunities to glorify. Attraction for living in the land of the Lord. Always looking forward to go to the temple or to go to Vrindavan and so on. Complete detachment from material things, material happiness. And genuine pridelessness. Mana shunyata. So one who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhava stage. So we can measure our growth by seeing how close we are to these goals, which cannot be imitated. The tears you can imitate, it's easy, but these you cannot. And if you're living in this realm, these goals, and allowing our feelings to flow, then we're making genuine progress. Yep. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord is in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone who can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. The result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of material desires, etc., that's mentioned above. So our philosophy is very simple. Our practice is very simple. It's just there's no limit to how much quality we can invest in these practices. Right? I mean, how difficult is our practice? What are the key practices? We chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We chant in a group with Sankirtan. We chant in japa. Right? But there's no limit to how much we can improve in the quality of this. We live our life simply and purely. We only take prasadam. Whatever we eat, we offer to Krishna. We only offer what can be offerable. And we take it as a mercy of the Lord. Very simple life. It's not complicated. The living part is very simple. Implementation is actually simple. Of course, hearing and reading, not that difficult, really speaking. Srila Prabhupada's books, his language is fairly easy for most of us to understand. And if you can't read, we can hang out with devotees who can and explain to us. See? And then, let's see, and of course, visiting the temple regularly. That's attachment to the holy place. What a temple center. This is the picture of our Tawaka temple. If you get a chance, do visit our Tawaka temple with most incredible deities. And of course, we base our whole life perspective on this one reality. Krishna does love us. He is our well-wishing friend. And he wants us to come to him even more than we do. So if we just keep our lives aligned on these principles and then work on improving the quality as far as possible, then we will be making genuine progress. So yes, it's pretty close to the end of time. I left a few minutes for questions. I hope we just kind of touched upon the point, the subject of emotions and the principle of what is a proper emotion, what's worth having, and so on. So thank you very much for giving me this time. And at this point, I think we can address some questions. Now, I have received some questions from Jeet, so maybe I'll start with that. So he asked that a few minutes ago. Is that okay? We can start with that?
Sure, Prabhu. Go ahead, please.
So he says, what kind of knowledge should we focus on? Someone who is in the ISKCON movement for, say, 10 years is expected to have clarity in basic philosophy. Should we focus on the philosophy behind the pastime of the Lord and teachings from them, or focus on tattva as formulated by Goswamis and Bhaktivinoda Thakur? For example, things like Paramatma, creation, destruction of the universe, and many other things related to bhakti cannot be totally understood but revealed if at all required in higher stages or liberated stage. Yes, so it's a good question. What aspect of the philosophy to focus on? So if you become familiar, first of all, what Srila Prabhupada has written, if you become familiar with his purports, and if we just attend daily classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, if we can't attend them, then we can read on a daily basis a certain amount of purport from Srimad Bhagavatam. That will take care of this idea, should I focus more on Paramatma, should I focus more on Sandarbhas as written by the Jiva Goswami and all. We don't need to worry too much about that. If we simply go through thoroughly the Bhagavad Gita as many times as possible, including purports, and discuss regularly with devotees, that's one very important foundation that we need to develop. Certainly, if at all possible, definitely do the Bhakti Shastri. Srila Prabhupada did want us to all learn Bhakti Shastri, the structured study of the course materials, and then move on to Bhakti Vaibhav and so on. But even if you can't take some of the structured ones, if on a daily basis we do the Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Bhagavad Gita, then whatever uh, we feel we need to focus on, it's all covered in those books. And Srila Prabhupada said these basic books are enough. You read Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ishopanishad, very simple, small books. If you just go through those in the company of devotees, that's really quite enough. And then, if you've thoroughly understood, if you're listening carefully, and of course we mentioned those acharyas, bhajans, and so on, then you will be in a very safe space in terms of understanding Siddhanta. Because Srila Prabhupada, you'll find he's repeating many points over and over again. So when he repeats them, we'll understand, yes, this is important, this is important. And the Siddhanta becomes very nicely aligned. So we just have to hang out with devotees, see how the progressive devotees are behaving, and understand the teaching of Srila Prabhupada. It's not that difficult. We don't need to overthink what we need to focus on more and all that. If you just go through the purports, it'll become self-evident what needs to be understood. Another point you raised is that 10 years expected to have basic clarity. Yes, that is a general kind of statement. You can say that this number of years means person should have some basic understanding. But we shouldn't lock ourselves down. Everybody moves at different paces. Some people will take 20, 30 years to get the basic understanding down. Some people understand everything in 3 months or even a few weeks, depending on our background. So this is not like grade school where after third grade you're expected to be this level of reading, and then it's not like that. It's very different. Philosophy and the philosophical understanding, it varies from person to person. So how many years and all that, in one sense, is not that critical. Main thing is we need to put our best effort to understand the philosophy, and that's why Mahaprabhu says that don't be lazy about it. That's all. If you're not lazy about it and we're giving it our best, that's all that he's asking for. So I think that's to answer that question.
Thank you so much, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Clearly, this was one of the best classes that I've heard on this topic. Very, very relevant class, very, very practical. In fact, if you can please go back to that slide. That's okay.
I can go back. Which one do you want to talk about?
Go back to that slide where you said some qualities that cannot be imitated.
Oh yeah. That's actually in the purport. I'll tell you which purport as a reference to it.
That's what my question was. Where is this from? Because it's
Reference is purport of Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.24.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So my question, I let others ask if anybody has any questions or comments, then I'll find it. I have a lot of questions, but if anybody has any questions or comments, please. Vishal Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for amazing class. My question is that so sometimes we have a surge of emotions, like feeling angry or feeling sad, or crying, having tears, and sometimes it is during the japa also. So how to tackle those emotions? Like though I see like those are very immediate emotions. So how do we tackle those? And how to see the purity, the motivation purity, and as you said, like cultivating the knowledge. So how to integrate all these things with those emotions?
Yeah, that's a good question. Very, very deep question, because when we have a surge of emotion, sometimes we don't understand our emotions, by the way. I think that's what you mean, right? It's a surge and it's not within our control. And we can understand some of these, perhaps if we're reflective, where is this all of a sudden a flow, like a dam is broken and these tears are flowing. I'm chanting Hare Krishna in the morning and all of a sudden I just can't even chant anymore. I'm choked up. And where is this coming from? And it could be for those of us who are conditioned, it is very rare that flow of tears is 100% pure, because we have conditioned. However, it is almost always purifying if the motivation is not selfish. If we are not gripped by two things. What are the two things? Hankering and what is it? Shochati and Akankshati. Shochati means lamentation and Kankshati means hankering. If you're not gripped by those two things, And if the emotions aren't rooted in those two things, then we know the level of purity is higher or more aligned with what is progressive. See, remember the emotions can be progressive or they can be regressive. Regressive means they are tied intimately to lamentation and hankering based on what I find to be materially comfortable. So that's a regression. However, even if it's a regressive emotion, even if it is strongly influenced by an intense desire, say for wealth, I mean, I'm a middle class person, but I really, really, really want to be upper middle class. I mean, I really want it, and I so much so that I cry for it. And and Krishna says there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. He said about the 4 types of people that come to me, and they're all good people. Artha arthati jigyasu jnanicha bharatarshava. Now, just because we approach Krishna with one of these or even combination of these categories doesn't mean that we have to remain stuck there. That was just the entryway. Now we can upgrade. We can always upgrade. We should always upgrade. Upgrade to which level? The fourth one, Jnani. Because Krishna says, of all these four, the Jnani is the most dear to me. Why? Because he knows what is what and is coming to me for me. You see? Not even Jigyasu. Jigyasu is just curious. What is this Krishna? What is this world? I want to know. But Jnani already knows that I am the servant of the Lord and he is my eternal master. And I just need to do the right thing and purify myself. So we can always upgrade. So now if we have this dam that is broken and so many feelings, and even say 90% of the feelings are stuck or are driven by the regressive motivations, it's still not a loss because that flow is bringing us closer to Krishna. We're crying in front of Krishna. Nothing wrong with that. We should just know that it's not the highest. You see? So we can do two things when that happens. We can appreciate the power of the holy name to allow the heart to flow. We can appreciate that. The Lord is so kind that he's letting these emotions flow. The fact that they may not be pure, that's a different matter. But the fact that the holy name has that influence on our heart, we can appreciate it. Then we step aside and we look at what's flowing, in that river of emotions. And then if we are a little more, say, neutral or objective about analyzing this later on, we can say that, yes, I know that, my relationship with my parents is probably what's a big part of my emotion, or my relationship with this other person. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that feeling. But then how do I tie that with appreciation for Krishna? Suppose my mother, I miss her very much. She's in India, I'm living in America, something like that. Then, and part of that, maybe a big portion of my emotion is my feeling of missing my mother. It's a very pure emotion, not necessarily selfish thing. It's just a very, very deep-rooted feeling. So then we can appreciate Krishna, that my Lord, I'm so thankful. Now we bring Krishna into the picture to purify that emotion. You see, that's a key. My Lord, I'm so thankful that you gave me such a wonderful mother. I understand that she's only one mother in many lifetimes, but this particular mother, she's been awesome. She's given me good sanskaras, whatever, so many things we can appreciate. But because we're talking to Krishna about that, it purifies that whole circle. You see, then even that flow of emotions gets purified. So next time you cry, that the appreciation toward Krishna will be mixed into that. And gradually everything will become more Krishnaized, Sometimes we think, we should not have attachment to family and all that. But Srila Prabhupada actually writes beautifully about that. He says, this is in the 13th chapter, and I strongly urge you to read this in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter from 8 through 12. This Amanitvam Adambitvam Ahimsa. There's a nice block of verses. In that one point, Krishna mentions attachment to family, etc., should be given up. That is an item of knowledge. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that attachment to family, etc., it is not that one should not have any affection or feeling for these. These are natural objects of affection. All one needs to do is engage them in Krishna's service, and you'll be happy. So you see, he doesn't say kick them away, even feelings. No, these are, if you kick them away, you're impersonalist. You see, so these kind of things that are very natural in the flow, we may even trick ourselves into thinking that they're impure. However, it's not that difficult to purify them. All we need to do is bring Krishna into the picture in the form of appreciation. That's all. This makes everything very holistic, very natural, very organic, and it becomes an asset in our Krishna consciousness. I'm just giving one example, but there are always ways we can find a way to connect Krishna to our feelings.
Thank you, Rudy.
Wonderful, Prabhu. Wonderful answer. Do you have like 5 more minutes, Prabhu?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. If no one has any questions, I'll just ask a couple of quick questions, Prabhu. So by nature, some of us are emotional and some of us are rational, as you mentioned. And Krishna says in 10.8, Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha, somehow we must balance the two. Intelligence and emotions should be balanced. So, but sometimes when we are in front of the deities, when we are crying, it could be a trick of the mind also, trying to say that, okay, I'm a rational person, but I'm trying to put in this emotion, I'm trying to cry. But how do we know? How do we know if it's the mind tricking us or if we are genuinely, it's coming from the heart?
Yeah. That's one of the challenges of our modern mindset, or even just conditioned mindset, is what is the authentic self? You know, is this a persona that I'm trying to imitate to artificially create a flow of emotions when I know I'm not an emotional person? Am I trying to, make a, just like completely synthesize something when there is really no feeling there? And that does happen too, by the way. That I all these people are crying. I should also be crying. That isn't necessarily the best way to look at it. Sometimes I feel I just don't have any emotions. However, everybody does have some emotions. Some just people don't express them as readily, and some people not quite as in touch with them, and that's just part of our conditioning. And that's fine. And maybe we may be some of those people who are not so readily pushing them. So sometimes we have to also assess: am I trying to jump the gun here? Am I trying to artificially cry like all these other devotees? They're genuinely crying, and I'm not feeling any emotions. So yeah, because we all have different levels of conditioning, and also not just conditioning but personalities, even in the spiritual world where everybody's fully purified, some are more emotional than others. Even among Krishna's wives, Rukmini Devi is actually very calm and emotionally, like, very rational, whereas Satyabhama is, she just loses it every now and a drop of a hat. you know she just loses it. When Satyabhama comes in Chaitanya Lila, she comes as Jagadanand Pandit, and he's always freaking out, doing very unusual things. So these are pure devotees, eternal. So that's why we don't always want to compare ourselves with others, whether it is to see how advanced I am at the level of emotions. We all have emotions. Sometimes we express them differently, and sometimes we do with different levels of intensity and so on. But there are two considerations we need to keep in mind: that we are unique as personalities, even in the purified state. So we shouldn't try to judge ourselves based on everybody. We're not all cookie cutter. We're all different. And second, our level of conditioning is also different. Our depth and the kind of twists and turns that we have conditioned ourselves with. Therefore, we need to always look for the basic emotions that are easily available to us, accessible. Gratitude. Always make sure that we are developing more and more sense of gratitude. It's an attitude that we need to cultivate. Gratitude, right? So gratitude is there. Appreciation, and definitely remorse. We can all tap into the remorse part. It's a very powerful emotion. So yeah, it's a great question. I mean, that's what I can muster up right now, Prabhu. That there's differences in all of us, but we have to work to it.
Wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you. Just one quick one. I just want to sneak in. So out of the 9 stages of bhakti, so bhava comes before prema. So we have after anattanivritti, nishta, ruchi, asakti, bhava, and prema. So does that mean that pure emotions is such a very high stage that we cannot even aspire at our stage? I know you covered this a little bit, but I just want to hear your thoughts again on this. Is it something that is it almost impossible for us to achieve at our neophyte stage?
So yes, we should avoid making it sound as if it's impossible, or even almost impossible. We do recognize it's very difficult. It's a long haul. However, if we do invest in utsaha, nishchaya, dhairya, enthusiasm, determination, and patience, then certainly success is guaranteed. However, how this works, right? Those stages. The longest plateau is anartha nivritti, removal of unwanted things. And then after anartha nivritti, the next few stages, all the way to bhava and prema, come very quickly. It can even happen in one day, actually. You know, those happen very, very fast. So the longest plateau is anartha nivritti, and then the real steadiness comes in, and the bhava. Bhava is the emotions, okay, the genuine feelings. Now, another thing is, even though these are sequential, every now and then we get glimpses of bhava. The feelings we get, even at stage of anartha nivritti, we can get sample glimpses of the other, levels. It's a natural part of it. It's this what keeps us going. We do occasionally, in front of deities, break down with tears and all. That's bhava. We express feelings emotionally. We express happiness, appreciation to Krishna. That is bhava. When we bow down and offer an offering, my Lord, please accept this. That is bhava. We can do it on day one. So it's not that we don't even get one drop of bhava. It's available. We just have to kind of see if we can steal as much bhava as we can, even as we are working on this anartha nivritti platform. You see, that keeps us accelerating our anartha nivritti.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So if there are no more comments, we'd like to end. So Paul, did you? Okay. No, yeah. There are no more comments. We can end right now. Thank you so much, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Again, really, really grateful that you're here, and definitely we'll have you again. I mean, this was a very, very practical. Everything. This had everything. It had the emotional side, the rational side, and the balance side. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for being here.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you again. Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Samveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
His Grace Madan Gopal Prabhu ki
Jai.